Guests on Keel heard via the Jack Spring Electric Keel Newsmaker hotline. The latest of those is Shreveport's Economic Development Director, Brandon Fail. Hey, Brandon, welcome back to Keel. How you doing?
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Aaron. How are you all doing?
Good. What have you got? You've got opportunities for businesses who are struggling right now. That's the big question.
Right.
What's available?
Look, and let me start by saying we know that Shreveport businesses are struggling immensely right now, just like businesses in the rest of the country. Thousands of businesses have had enormous numbers of temporary and in some cases permanent layoffs. This is the biggest economic disruption that Shreveport and the rest of the country has seen essentially since the Great Depression. And so we want to be sensitive to the magnitude of this crisis and to the and in sharing that these are opportunities, right? These are bailout things that we think that we want to make folks aware of in case they're not. Okay, so the Federal CARES Act that the president signed into law does actually provide some very helpful relief, and we want local companies to know about it quickly, as a couple of the forms of relief are available on a first-come, first-served basis, and we want local businesses to become aware of them so they can get signed up.
So what do they do?
There's three aspects of what's available right now. Okay, the first is called the Paycheck Protection Plan, or PPP. These are basically forgivable loans. If you own a business, you can borrow up to 2.5 times monthly payroll, and you can include in payroll what you pay yourself or the profits of the business. So this is extremely attractive to small business owners wondering how they're going to pay the bills for their own family and for food and for stuff like that in the meantime. It's technically a loan, but it can be used to pay for payroll, rent, utilities, and mortgage payments or loan payments. And the loan is it's a 2-year loan at a very low interest rate, I think 0.5%, but it is forgivable in proportion to how much of your staff you keep on payroll. So if you keep or bring back now 100% of your staff at the pre-COVID salaries or wages they were earning, 100% of it is going to be forgiven. So it has the character of a grant, and it's extremely attractive. And to take advantage of that, businesses should contact their local bank. It's going to be available shortly, basically through almost every bank or credit union.
And that one was called. Once again.
It's called PPP, Paycheck Protection Plan.
Okay. And number two,
very attractive. Number two are what are called economic injury disaster loans, available from the SBA. These are very low interest, long-term loans that can be taken out to cover any expenses that are not covered by the PPP. This is a little bit less attractive, as these are loans that fundamentally have to be paid back. But here is the thing, and it relates closely to the third benefit. What the CARES Act adds to those loans is that immediately upon application, the business owner can receive a $10,000 advance on those loans, whether or not you take out the loans. In other words, you go to the website, which is COVID-19response.sba.gov, and you fill out, it is now a streamlined application, and within 3 days, a $10,000 advance will be deposited in your checking account. And if you take the loan, it is sort of a $10,000 advance on that loan. And if you don't take the loan, it's sort of like you got the first $10,000 of your PPP. So it's a very attractive thing, as both the PPP and the longer-term loans will take a few weeks to get the money into your account. But there are businesses struggling right now that are cash-strapped, and this is a way to get $10,000 into your account in 3 days.
Okay, you've got a third option as well, right?
That is the third option. Pardon me. It's the $10,000 grant, and it's probably the single most attractive part of this. And so folks should know about it. It's COVID-19relief.sba.gov. And I want to also make folks aware, if they're not already, that last week my office, in conjunction with the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, Southern University, COHAB, and the Strategic Action Council, launched a free confidential advisory service for small businesses. Folks can learn about it and take advantage of it at the website shreve.biz. We have information on all these programs there, and more critically, there is a chance to book an appointment with a small business advisor from Southern University who will be able to walk folks through any questions they have about these or other programs. And if needed, and we're finding It's not quite needed that often, but if needed, schedule a follow-up, in-depth, and totally free confidential conversation with counselors, folks who have themselves run small businesses. We have folks on the volunteer team who are lawyers, folks who are bankers, and folks who are CPAs to answer specific questions and be helpful, free of charge at this time. And the way to take advantage of all of that is to go to shreve.biz and sign up for a 15-minute initial conversation. Whether or not you take advantage of that, it's going to be to everyone's advantage to look into the PPP and into the what are called economic injury disaster loan grants, the $10,000 advance, as soon as possible, because both of those programs are limited in quantity at the federal level.
Let me ask you that.
And,
let me ask you that.
they're going fast.
Is there how much money and how quickly is the money going to be gone?
I couldn't say the rate at which it's going. I don't know how many folks have signed up, but each are limited in quantity. I believe. Let me see. I believe it's a couple hundred. It's 2 or 300 billion for the PPP, and there is just 10 billion in the 10K grants, and so the 10 billion is going to go very fast.
Brandon, sort of a
may last slightly longer.
Pardon me, sort of a two-parter here. What qualifies if you can help folks out as a small business, and sort of dovetail with that? What kind of credit check are they running, if one at all? Does your ability to get the loan have to do with what kind of debt you're carrying, your mortgage, your rent, whatever it has to be?
Yeah, excellent question. So small businesses are defined as up to 500 employees. So like this is almost everybody that thinks they might be included in Shreveport is included. And the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loans, can be taken out for up to $10 million. So it's most businesses that are wondering, am I a small business? The answer is yes. And then the answer to your second question is I believe that the credit checks. So there's two parts to the question. The process, folks, I've gotten a lot of questions. Folks are concerned about, is it onerous? Because it used to take 5 to 6 hours to fill out an application for an SBA loan. The government has streamlined the application, and there's a new short application that takes less than 2 hours, they say, to complete on the SBA website, sba.gov. And I'm hearing from local banks that the goal of this program and the guidance they're receiving is to get folks enrolled quickly. And so my understanding is that while the SBA loans that are the secondary loans I mentioned will still have a type of a credit check, and I think they will be working to ensure that the underlying business was profitable and was a reasonable investment before the crisis hit. They are not they're not saying, well, you're not making any money in April and May, we can't give you this loan, right? And the PPP loans are basically available to all businesses that are affected. And I think the federal government contemplates, again, forgiving the vast majority of those loans. So it's not quite a rigorous credit check in the way you would expect if you were taking a private loan for a business. Okay,
the PPP, that's only for business. Say that say Robert has a business on the side and he does DJing. Is somebody like that eligible? Somebody who's like a private contractor?
Yes, interestingly, and I'm glad you asked, because there are a lot of private contractors. There are DJs, there are personal trainers, there are some doctors and even dentists that have their business structured this way. If you don't have employees, you can consider the profit that you pay to yourself as the salary expense, and you can qualify for a PPP loan, which can be forgiven if you use the money in the required way, which is easy because the required way is to use it for salaries, including paying yourself. Rent, loan payments, and utilities.
So if I do side jobs and people pay me for my voice to do things for them, and I get 1099'd on that, I would be eligible for this PPP money if some of that earnings is gone?
I believe that if what you're talking about is more like gig work,
yes,
it has the character of the character of being an independent contractor,
mm-hmm,
then the appropriate thing to do may be to file for personal unemployment, which was expanded to include gig workers and independent contractors.
Gotcha.
But if your business has the character of a business, it's incorporated, and you regularly take, profits in that way, then the PPP is appropriate for you.
Gotcha. Brandon Fail, Shreveport Economic Development Director. You got one last point real quick?
Yeah. If I could just make 2 points. The first, again, is that we have a great service, and it's really connecting with dozens of businesses already. And if you have questions about any of this, I know I spoke fast, and we have a limited time this morning, but we have staff available to help at shreve.biz. And the second point I'd just love to make in the last couple seconds is that fundamentally, the most important thing we can all do to help our businesses and the economy locally recover is to observe the health guidelines that have been put out, is to stay at home when possible, stay away from each other, wash our hands, and so on, because the most important thing we can do to get the economy going again is to flatten this curve and to reduce its impact.